when it comes to valuing people, if we're not careful, we can get stuck in the rat race of working and thinking it's about the product or the company. But in life, God tells us to be love. God is love, and he wants us to show love to others. And when we show our love and light to other people and they feel valued, then they can also see Jesus in us. And so it's one of the highest callings that we have, is to be a person of value and to value other people.
Hey friends, it's Mary, and this is the Mary Jervich Show, a podcast that champions today's working women to gain the clarity, confidence, and courage to uplevel your career while strengthening your faith and living your dream life, all in record time. We'll cover topics like career advancement, leadership, personal development, faith, and health and wellness, so you can intentionally create a career and life full of more abundance, joy, and love. Let's get started.
Hey friends, welcome on into this episode of the Mary Jervich Show. I am so excited that you're joining us here today. And today I want to talk about valuing people. One of my mentors, John Maxwell, one of the things that he said when I first started following him years ago that really kind of stuck with me is to be a person of value and to value people. This is one of his core values. And since he is the foremost leader in leadership, I think it's safe to say that this is a value that we should all be following, both in the workplace and outside of the workplace. And in life, it really comes down to this: being a person of value and valuing people. When we know our values, when we know what we stand for, we can live authentically. We can show up as our authentic self. We can make decisions more easily. It's easy for us to choose and to know which path we should be taking in life because we understand what's important to us. And that's what our values are, is showing importance. And when we are a person of value, then that means that we have values, we have morals, we live by a certain code of conduct, and we have set a certain bar for ourselves in our lives. And for us, if we are Christians, then we should be following the Bible. And the Bible is really our standard of how we should be trying to live, not to please God, because God's already pleased with us. He already loves us. But so we can honor God and let God know how much we love him because we're willing to, sacrifice ourselves, right? Sacrifice the desires of our own heart to do and live out the values that God wants for us. And when we can live in this way, we know that it leads to more abundance. It's not because God gives us more. He already gave us everything through the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus, but because we know that when we live out these values, things just seem to go easier for us. When we value others, right? If we can value ourselves and be a person of value, and we can value others, and we understand what it means to value others, then we can reap a lot of benefits from that. Because when we value people, there's a lot of things that happens. And so let's talk about some of the things that happen when we value people today. And then I want to give you some examples of ways that you can show up and value people more. And I know this is something that's so critical, honestly, because when it comes to valuing people, if we're not careful, we can get stuck in the rat race of working and thinking it's about the product or the company. But in life, God tells us to be love. God is love, and he wants us to show love to others. And when we show our love and light to other people and they feel valued, then they can also see Jesus in us. And so it's one of the highest callings that we have, is to be a person of value and to value other people. So let's talk about why and what some of the reasons are that it's important that we value others. Okay, so the first one is increased engagement and motivation. So when people feel valued, they're more engaged in their work, they're more likely to be motivated to perform well, and they're more likely to give their best effort. And whether you're the manager or even if you're just a team member, having people motivated and engaged to help you with whatever your task is or whatever the task is at hand, it's going to make everything easier and more enjoyable. And so when people feel valued, and then they're going to increase that engagement and that motivation. And so whether you guys are working together or whether you're even working in different departments, it can help the whole company to succeed. The second key reason is it improves retention. Now, you may be saying, I wish my manager was listening to this episode, but here's the one thing that we know is when we can actually model what it is we hope others will do, oftentimes they will see that, they will see the results of that, and that will become attractive to them. So if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I wish my manager would listen to this, you can sure share the show with them, but you can also just remember how important it is that we show up how we would want others to treat us. And so the second thing is that improved retention. So people are more likely to stay in jobs and with organizations where they feel valued and appreciated, leading to improved retention rates and reduced employee turnover. And this is true even in volunteer positions. When people feel valued, when people feel like their efforts are making a difference, then they want to give more. And when people are feeling that value, then they want to stay in those spaces. And we can see that clearly in our lives as well. And this is where, a lot of times people will say, well, pay isn't the most important thing for people in jobs. And that's absolutely true. Pay isn't the number one factor. I know a lot of women, they'll think about flexible schedules. They'll think about their family. They're thinking about other things and not always the income that's coming in. And sometimes it's even just feeling valued or being in a culture where you feel appreciated, where you feel like you have a voice. Those things really lead us to want to stay in roles, even when we're not making as much money. Now, I don't think that you have to stay in that role or that you can't advance within your company, even if you love it, just because you're being valued. But we do see that the statistics show that valuing people, they'll actually work for less money if they feel valued. And number 3 is enhanced collaboration and teamwork. So when people feel valued, they are more willing to collaborate with others, share ideas, and work together towards a common goal. And this is so important because here's the thing: when we collaborate, when we work together, when people are open to hearing other people's ideas, building off of ideas, that's when we truly can find our zone of genius as a company, as an organization, because there's so many people out there that just really don't want to share ideas because they're not sure that they'll be heard. They're not sure that they're the right ideas. But when we get this information into the pool, there's oftentimes people are thinking of things. They have a different perspective. They have a different lens. They've had different experiences in their lives. And when they will share their ideas, this is when we can actually come to even better outcomes. And so we want people to share ideas. And that's one of the things I teach with the promotion plans is how to share your ideas in a meaningful way. Because when people will share their ideas, then the company can move forward and continue to advance. Number 4, higher levels of innovation and creativity. And this kind of goes with the last one, right? Because when we're sharing ideas and we have that enhanced collaboration, they're going to be more likely to take risk when they feel valued. They're going to be more likely to try new things. They're going to be more likely to think outside the box, which can lead to increased innovation and creativity. And so whether you're that manager, whether you're that team member, if you are working on a project with a team and you can help people to feel valued and they're willing to give those ideas, they're willing to think of new things or try something maybe they haven't tried before because they know it's a safe space, then this is going to be something that can really benefit you and the team. And the 5th thing that showing other people value can do is improve well-being and mental health. And mental health has been all over the place, right? And we know that well-being is one of the main things that women actually want in their careers, right? They love that flexibility and they want that well-being. And so when we can help people feel valued, then they are more likely to have positive self-esteem, reduced stress levels, and improved mental health, leading to happier and healthier lives. And when we can do this, when we will show people value and we value people in the workplace, then we are fostering positive relationships. We encourage that productivity and we create that supportive work environment. And so now let's just talk about, now that we talked about the benefits, right? If we do show the value to others and that we're valuing them, let's talk about how we can actually show value to others in the workplace. What does that look like? Well, I have 6 things that you can do. So the first one is give recognition and positive feedback. So just acknowledging when someone has done a good job and let them know that you appreciate their efforts. And this is in all parts of life. Just the other day, my son was out on the baseball field and he's got this one little friend and they are super, super competitive. It's so fun to watch them together. And they happen to be put on different flag football teams recently. And so they had a game against each other. And once they got back out on the baseball field, they were still talking to each other. They were talking to each other about the game. Well, I did this and you did that and I did this. And, they were doing what little boys do. And they were really talking about, hey, what did I do better? What did I do better? What did you not do as well? And then they were throwing the ball to each other, right? Baseball practice, they're throwing the ball and sometimes they're missing it. They have a low pass, a high pass. They're little, they're 7 and 8 years old. So they're not going to be perfect at this yet, but the passes aren't going right. And you could see them start to get onto each other like, hey, throw the ball better, or that was a bad pass. And all of these types of things. And you could just see the frustration in their little faces as they were doing this. And I pulled them both over and I just said, hey guys, why don't you all try to encourage one another, right? When somebody says, hey, that was a great pass, or somebody throws you a good pass, say, hey, that was a great pass. Or perhaps you don't make a really good throw. You could just say, hey, that's my fault. And they started to do it. and you could just see the transformation. They were having so much more fun. It was like there was this ease that came in. They kind of relaxed a little bit because they didn't feel like they needed to be perfect for each other. And when they were encouraging each other, they started to feel better. And so even with boys and friends and in sports, we can see whenever we give that positive recognition, how it just goes so much further. So whether it's in our careers, it's at home with our kids, or it's even when we're volunteering or just out in general, giving people a compliment is going to want to make them do the job even that much better, even something that they're already really good at. Okay, number 2 is to be prepared. When we prepare for things, if somebody has asked us to do part of a project, part of an assignment, maybe they've asked us to research something, maybe they're holding a meeting, but whenever we can be prepared, whenever we can show up and say, hey, I have taken some time, energy, and effort to put into this prior to attending here. I showed up on time, but I am prepared for this. That shows that we value the other person. And whether this is your boss or whether this is somebody that's at the same level or somebody that's below you on the hierarchy, whenever we show up prepared, this is going to show them that, hey, you're important and you are valued. And this is going to make them feel respected. And that's really important. The third thing we can do is to listen actively. So when someone approaches you with a problem or a concern, we just want to give them your full attention. And you want to show them that you are genuinely interested in finding a solution. So whenever anybody's talking to you, right, most people are talking because they want to be heard. They want to feel understood. And a lot of times what's really useful is whenever we are having conversations with people is to really come to an understanding of what is it that the other person is actually looking for. I know if you have a spouse or a partner, one of the things we oftentimes go to our spouses and we share something with them and we can feel like, oh my gosh, they're just trying to fix this thing. And one of the biggest things with communication is just not understanding what the other person is really looking for. So one of the things we can do in conversations after we listen actively is really ask, were you sharing this with me or were you wanting to get some advice? And when you ask it in that way, a lot of times they may say, well, I was just sharing it with you. And we could do this with our kids too. I would just wanted to share it with you instead of just giving them that advice, right? I know as a mom, it's really hard. You just want to help them with all the things. But oftentimes, if you just listen and you just kind of empathize with them, then oftentimes what will happen is they'll ask you for the advice as well. And so just understanding what it is the other person wants whenever they are communicating with you is really key. And one thing that's also important about communication here is just not feeling like you have to always give your opinion. Somebody can share something with you and you can disagree. And it doesn't mean that you have to share your opinion. By not saying anything, it doesn't mean that you're agreeing with what they say. It just means that they simply shared something with you. And that's okay for you not to have to respond in that moment, because that's a way that other people can feel valued and other people will share their ideas. Because, somebody may be new at sharing ideas or sharing things with you, whether it's a concern or something. And if they feel shut down right away, then they're not going to be likely to want to come back to you into the future. Okay, the fourth thing that we can do is provide opportunities for growth and development. Now, you may be thinking, well, I'm not the leader. I'm not in charge of these things. But no matter what your position is, if you can offer training or learning opportunities to help employees grow and advance within their role, within a task, or even within their careers, this is going to provide a lot of value to them. And this is going to show them that you value them. This means that you really care about them. I had one team member, she was our director of communications, and one thing that she did is she actually did a writing course for those people that were writing in our newsletter. She took her time aside. She wasn't asked to do this, but she decided, you know what, for the people that are contributing most frequently, and maybe they're not the best writers, and I would actually fall into that category. She said, hey, I'm going to do some writing classes if you would like to attend. And she actually taught us how to write these articles in a really meaningful way. And she was a beautiful writer. And that was just something that said, she didn't criticize us for our poor writing. She would always just help us and fix it, make it better. It was really wonderful. She was amazing at it. She still is. But going a step beyond to kind of even help herself and to add value to us was to do that training. And so you can do that in your role as well. So maybe there's an area where you feel really talented. Instead of criticizing others for not being as talented in those areas, you can offer to do some training, and that will show that you value others. And the fifth thing is to offer support and be flexible. So we just want to show empathy and understanding when unexpected things happen in someone's personal life, and just be willing to accommodate their individual needs as best you can. I mean, the truth is that that we don't all see things the same way. What's a really big critical problem to one may not be to you, something that's super important. Maybe it's the loss of a pet, right? So for one person, the loss of their pet, that could be their whole world. Maybe they don't have children and all they have is pets, or maybe they had this pet since they were young, or maybe they had this pet and they were really attached to it with another family member, whatever that is. And even if you have kids, you could still be attached to your pet, but maybe you personally don't see the loss of a pet as a huge deal. But in this case, we just want to have empathy for the other person. We want to show understanding, and we just want to make accommodations for people. We want people to feel like they can be honest with us. And, it's not about not having expectations, especially if you're a manager. Everybody can't just be calling off left and right, and you can't just have all of this crazy going on. But we also want people to understand that when something really is going on in their life, that we're going to be there for them. And that is how we show up as a manager, as a person within this company. And that's how the company shows up, because you're a representative. And when you will show up for people, when you will show up in a big way, it could just be giving the person a couple of days off. It could be giving them a break when something really bad happens. Like, there's multiple things that happen. But when you show up in that really big and meaningful way, you actually get so much loyalty. And this is one of those things where it's like, it can be overlooked because you're like, oh, really? That's going to cause more retention? It absolutely does. Whenever you're flexible, not to every little thing that's happening in the world, but when you really show up in a big way for those big life things that happen, it can really show people like, oh my gosh, I really care about this company. I really care about this team. It doesn't mean that they won't ever leave or they won't ever want to go work for another division, but that loyalty will go so far, and they're always going to be talking great about you in the company. And the last thing that we can do to show that we value other people is to celebrate achievements and milestones. So recognizing and celebrating individuals and team accomplishments, such as hitting a major goal, reaching an anniversary with the company, or completing a project. People really want to be lifted up. They want to be celebrated. And, there's different ways that we can appreciate people and show this, but whenever we focus on the things that are important to the company and we make these are the things that we're celebrating, and we really take the opportunity to celebrate and lift people up, that's going to give them that extra motivation whenever that next project, whenever that next goal comes up. And so we just want to be focused on thinking about, hey, how can we celebrate people? How can we celebrate people today? And, it's not that there should be some milestones. I think that is really great. How can you celebrate people's milestones? That's wonderful. The 1-year anniversary, the birthdays, all of those types of things. For those types of things, they mean different things to different people, but when you can really personalize it for the person, it's going to go a long way, because they're going to think, oh my gosh, this person really thought about me. They really care about me. And then whenever you celebrate those bigger achievements, that's just going to show the whole company. And whether you're the manager or even the team member in this case, if you could lift your boss up, if you could say, yes, Susie was such a great leader throughout this entire project. She really helped us pull everything over the finish line. It was her leader and her guidance that really pulled everything together. It's not that you have to off-put what you did, because you should definitely own your accomplishments, but also giving some recognition to others or listing everybody on the team. If you are the manager, hey, this was a team effort. Everybody really pulled together. XYZ did this and this and this, and really giving that credit to others is going to help them to feel valued. Now, absolutely take your credit. You definitely want to do that. You are part of the project, but you could say, this project was a success. It was easier to lead because I had these people on my team. So they made it fun and engaging for us to hit our milestones. Everybody was showing up at our meetings. Everybody was listening to their directives. Everybody came to the trainings. So you can show and express that you did a part of it, but also that others were really there and it was all made possible because of them. So just remember, you are a person of value and you are valuing people. And when we will do this, our whole life can become more fun and more exciting, and our relationships can be deepened. And this is a great way to build rapport. You may have heard of building rapport, building relationships, or even leveraging relationships. And this is a great way that you can do that, is when you will just focus on being a person of value who values people. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Mary Jervich Show. It's always a pleasure, and I never take it for granted that you would be here with us today. I hope that you are doing so well. If there's any way that I can be of service to you, don't ever hesitate to reach out. I do have accelerated career clarity calls. So if you are feeling a little stuck in your career, uncertain on the next step that you want to take, or if you're just looking for more out of your career and you want to get there with ease and a little fun, then go ahead and book an accelerated career clarity call so we can spend some time together and talk about your specific goals. Until we meet again, remember, you are only one plan away from your next promotion. And God, He's not done with you.
Hey friend, thank you for listening today. Be sure to join us next week for another great episode. If you receive value from today's show, I'd appreciate it if you would leave us a 5-star review to help others learn about the show. And if you're ready to fast track your career and increase your income, impact, and joy, then head on over to maryjervich.com and check out the masterclass that teaches you how you can advance too. I'd love to hear from you. You can connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. This and so much more can be found in the show notes. I look forward to seeing you soon.